Our next discussion that's in store for you is brought to you by Microsoft, and they will be discussing about new banks and open banking, faster to the market with the cloud. To discuss this particular topic in detail, we have Rob Hale, Chief Digital Officer, Regional Australia Bank, and Rupert Nicolay, FSI Industry Solutions Lead, Microsoft. Please welcome them.
Hi, I'm Rupert Nicolay. I'm from Microsoft's Worldwide Financial Services team, where I'm a solution lead focusing on our largest customers around the world. Today's session is entitled Neobanks and Open Banking, Faster to Market with the Cloud. We'll be joined by a customer later in the session to hear about their achievements on the Microsoft Cloud from an open banking perspective. Let's look at what's happening in terms of the cloud-based services in neobanking. So today we see incumbent banks and venture-funded startups operating in ever more competitive markets, launching new services in increasingly aggressive timeframes. A few years ago, it might have taken 18 months to 2 years to launch an entirely new banking service, while today we are seeing services conceived, built, and launched to customers in as little as 12 months. This is being achieved by composing new services from cloud platforms and from ISV solutions that run on those platforms, and in many cases also leveraging data and services available via open banking and other interfaces from partners. Microsoft partners now offer advanced software as a service solutions for core banking, payments, personal financial management, digital customer onboarding, lending, and much more. Some of the metrics that these new digital born in the cloud banks are achieving are shown here. So we see a dramatic reduction in the average cost taken to acquire a new current account customer. Something like 80% reduction has been achieved by a group of new digital banks that have been studied. At the same time, using the digital onboarding technologies we mentioned a moment ago, the days taken to open a current account have dropped from 3 to 0. Very importantly, we see banks launching new features in as little as 2 weeks, whereas this might have taken 3 to 6 months with traditional change processes and launch processes. These new banks are also operating with a far smaller number of full-time employees per retail banking customer. So something like a 60% reduction has been achieved in the number of employees required to support each customer. So by way of example, let's look at one of our customers in Italy, Flowy. This is a new bank launched in record time on our cloud platform, and it was born out of the incumbent bank, that was Banca Mediolanum's, need to attract new millennial customers to compete with new digital challenges that they saw in the market, and also their ambition to provide their customers the ability to fulfill a more sustainable lifestyle. And so one of the unique features that they launched in their new banking service born on our cloud was this ability to give customers nudges towards environmentally sustainable behavior. So a really unique differentiating feature landed alongside personal financial management capabilities and many other digital banking service features which were appealing to the new millennial market that they were seeking to attract. Under the hood on our cloud, these solutions are composed of many first-party capabilities that exist on our Azure cloud platform, which are convenient, useful, and provide acceleration to delivering these new banking services. And of course, they're composed of many partner services which together allow you to orchestrate these great experiences in record time on the cloud. So on this slide, we see a few examples of the areas in which a new digital experience layer has to deliver, and some of these services that are provided from partners and from Microsoft to do that. And then supporting that, some of the kind of platform capabilities that are available and used commonly in digital banking solutions on our cloud. Now, one of the further trends that has supported the move towards the rapid launch of these new digital banking services is the move globally towards open banking. And we've seen that in many markets, open banking has been regulated, and so across Europe, the UK, increasingly in Latin America, and in some parts of APAC, regulators have required banks to share account information and in some cases to offer payment initiation services. Even in markets where that hasn't been a requirement, we've seen that the evolution of the market has been such that providers have stepped in and started providing this data, and there are novel uses for the consumption of this information. And so some of the ways in which open banking plays into offering these new digital banking services are shown here. And we group them really into two major areas. One is to drive new revenue and profit growth opportunities, and the other is to drive operational efficiency within the bank. So revenue and profit growth features could be to deliver new customer experiences, to make those experiences more seamless and so forth, or to add new customers, or to provide an easier way of entering a market in which a particular incumbent or startup does not have a strong presence today. And of course, from an efficiency perspective, they may provide enhanced efficiency in the way that you offer these products to customers. So this is some of what we see in the open banking space. And Australia is an interesting market for us in that they have recently launched the open banking regulation. In Australia, this is known as the Consumer Data Right, or CDR regulation, and that requires incumbent banks to become data providers to others operating in the Australian market. Now, the very first consumer of this service in the Australian market was Microsoft's customer, Regional Australia Bank. And I'm going to speak now with Rob Hale, the Chief Digital Officer of Regional Australia Bank, about their journey launching a new experience based on the Microsoft Cloud and leveraging some of that open banking information. So let's now talk to Rob. So good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Microsoft's booth in the FinTech Festival once again. I'm Rupert Nicolay from the Worldwide Financial Services team at Microsoft. One of my focuses is on open banking. And today I'm joined by Rob Hale from Regional Australia Bank. Rob's the Chief Digital Officer there. And Rob, over to you just to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi everyone. Well, you've just done a great job of that, Rupert. I am responsible for all the technology at Regional Australia Bank. We're a customer-owned bank in regional New South Wales, so about 80,000 customers, with a strong focus on delivering customer service through a combination of people and technology. That's a strategic differentiator for us.
Great, thanks. And so, for those from other markets, can you provide a sort of brief overview of open banking and in particular what's called the customer data right in the Australian market and the kind of roles of the participants?
Certainly. So Australia is a little bit different from some jurisdictions in that we have this piece of legislation called the Consumer Data Right, and that covers all sectors of the economy. Clearly, I work in banking, and banking is the first sector of the economy to which that right is applied, and we call that open banking. So that's something we're more familiar with. So this is about giving consumers control and choice and the ability with consent to share their data. So in our part of the economy, we're dealing with consumers sharing their banking data, and we can participate as a receiver of that data. We call it data recipient, or as a holder of that data. So Regional Australia Bank, we're a bit odd. We're a bank, so we hold data, but we're also accredited as a data recipient. So we can receive and supply data upon consent from a consumer.
Great, okay. There's a lot of interest in these models, around the world, as we see both regulated drives towards supporting these environments, and then, of course, also just general competitive forces play out in the markets around the world, which have shifted banks towards both providing and consuming data in this way. And so can you tell us a little bit more about the approach that you've taken as a data recipient and how you've used the Azure Cloud to build your consumer data rights recipient solution?
So we've been a Microsoft customer for a long time, so it was a natural place to look when we wanted to offer a cloud solution. Microsoft's done a great job in appeasing our prudential regulators here. There are amendments to the agreements that specifically deal with the requirements of APRA, our prudential regulator here, the Financial Services Agreement amendment. So that's fantastic. That makes our life a lot easier in terms of getting regulatory consent to do these things. But what we actually want to do in our world is take the bad friction out of lending. So that's our initial use case as a data recipient. So when we lend to existing customers or consumers who might become a customer, we have to go through a process of determining their creditworthiness and if they qualify for a loan. And traditionally, that's done by assessing someone's income and expenditure in particular. We also look at assets and liabilities, but a lot of the work is done around income and expense assessment and actually categorizing expenses. So how much do I spend on transport or education or travel, whatever it might be. And that has been historically a requirement under a thing called RG 209 or responsible lending. That's another regulated part of what we do. And we have to apply some diligence and some rigor to that process. But if we can use CDR to pull that data from the applicant's current financial provider, their bank, and we can pull up to 2 years worth of transaction history and categorize that in a matter of seconds and then present that in the online application. That's doing a lot of things. That's taking friction out of the process. It's taken the heavy lifting away from the consumer. It's removed the back office inefficiency of someone in our organization trying to do that accurately. And it's also being very transparent and allowing the consumer to say, well, actually, that's not correct, or that doesn't include these amounts, or here's the reason why that figure is high or low. So we're developing a connection with the applicant, demonstrating transparent, ethical, trustworthy behavior, which is something that we really value as a customer-owned bank.
Great. I mean, that sounds like it, as you say, it's certainly reducing friction for the customer. Has been positive customer feedback as part of launching this?
Yeah, there has, and of course, anything that removes that sort of heavy burden and creates capacity for a human conversation about someone's financial needs, which is where we're a relationship bank. That's a win for everyone. It's still very early days. The CDR only launched on the 1st of July this year, 2020. So inevitably, as that ecosystem grows and as more data recipients come on board and more participants participate in that broader ecosystem, we're going to refine and evolve these use cases. And I think consumers will become much more familiar with that process of giving consent, authenticating, authorizing, sharing, which today is still a little bit foreign, a little bit alien to many people. So we're kind of wearing a lot of that process of getting consumers familiar with the process. So that's quite interesting.
Right. And when you said it's early days, were you? We understand that you were the very first authorized recipient in the Australian market. Is that right?
We are. We have the #1 in our accreditation. Yes, we're accredited data recipient #1. And we are shortly going to publish data as a data holder as well. We've got a slightly different number for that because the major banks, the 4 major banks here in Australia, had to go earlier in the timeline. That was an obligation they had.
Right. Great. Yeah. And my understanding is that you've open sourced certain portions of the solution that was built to receive the data. Can you tell me, some of the thinking behind publishing that solution for others?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is our data recipient solution, which we affectionately call Dr. G. That's a containerized application that sits in Azure, and it acts as the interface between us as a recipient, our recipient application, the online lending application, and the CDR ecosystem. So all the data holders and the register, and it abstracts all the complexity out of that interaction. So it allows us to plug an application into Dr. G. Dr. G takes care of all the authentication, authorization protocols, and dealing with the data holders and the register. So we built this thing from scratch because as the first data recipient, there was no one else to work with. There was no one to copy. There was no product out there. And we spent a lot of time doing that. And then we figured at the end, well, this would be crazy if everyone had to do the same thing. So why don't we open source this product? Other people can accelerate their participation. We're going to accelerate the broadening of the ecosystem, the regime. Hopefully the adoption will pick up more quickly. And other people, as is with the open source movement, other people will contribute to that product and it will enhance it. It will have more features. It will be better. It will be a better product. And then we all benefit from that. So that was an interesting process to go through. As you can imagine, in a bank, not only sharing software with publicly, but also being comfortable to open source that solution and all the liability and all the controls that go with that. But it was a really good thing to have done, and we've had some fantastic feedback as a consequence.
Right, yeah. So trailblazing on a number of fronts there, really, with landing this in the cloud and open sourcing it and being the first consumer. That's wonderful. And so kind of looking forward to what growth opportunities you may see coming from the open banking CDR regulation in Australia and for yourselves as Regional Australia Bank. What does the way forward look like for yourselves?
Yeah, this is really, we're in a very interesting position right now because we're starting to see opportunities popping up all over the place. Some people do view being a data holder as a compliance objective, compliance obligation, and we don't view it like that at all. We view that as an opportunity for our customers to get access to third-party services which we don't offer, we're unable to offer, such as a really good personal financial management solution. Well, now our customers can access that with their data in real time, safely, securely, no screen scraping, and we may not endorse all these third-party solutions, but we are comfortable that our customers are using those and getting value from them. So that is a fantastic opportunity across the board. Retail customers, SME, small business customers, there are many opportunities for them to benefit from that. And for us, the only obligation is to maintain the flow of the data through the pipes, through the ecosystem, and let third parties take advantage of that. So that's a win-win, I think, all around. What's also really interesting is when we push into other sectors of the economy, energy is the next one, then telco, and when we start to look at what services we can provide to our customers through partnerships, through aggregation of financial and lifestyle services to really start to touch into consumers' real needs, not just focusing purely on banking. So, I can't predict where this will go, but I think there's a tremendous opportunity through this ecosystem to allow some very innovative consumer solutions to pop out in the next couple of years or so.
Wonderful. Well, great. Well, thanks very much for joining us here today for the FinTech Festival. And we wish you every success on the journey as Regional Australia Bank.
Thanks, Rupert, and thanks everyone else. Cheers.
So that was an interesting story from Rob and the Regional Australia Bank team. And as you can hear, especially exciting to learn how they are open sourcing some of the technology that they've used to deliver these capabilities in the Australian market, and how it's accelerated their journey and the customer experience of taking a loan with Regional Australia Bank. So in conclusion, we've learned about Microsoft's vision for digital banking in this session, and you can find out more about that on microsoft.com/banking. And there you'll find many additional customer stories similar to the Regional Australia Bank our perspectives and further events and webcasts that you can listen to. We also talked in today's session around the trend towards composing or orchestrating these new digital banking experiences from multiple partner solutions. So using both cloud native capabilities and partner solutions to deliver on digital banking requirements in record time. And you can find out more and browse these solutions at appsource.microsoft.com. Thank you very much for joining us at the Singapore FinTech Festival today. Thank you.